Okay. It's 4 o'clock. Welcome to Boroughs Burbs 73. I'm your host, John Engel, an agent with Douglas Elliman in Connecticut. 3 years ago, I decided I needed to connect with other agents about the market. So we created this podcast. I found Roberto Cabrera, an agent with Brown Harris Stevens in New York, and we began a virtual dialogue that you now know as Boroughs and Burbs. Today on the show, the Burb is the entire western half of the United States. And our guest is Peter Hannis Hernandez, co-founder of Teles and currently president of Douglas Elliman's western half. I enlisted ChatGPT to get some help on this introduction. And they told me that Peter is a singer-songwriter, better known as Bruno Mars.
That's right.
So this is a ChatGPT free hour. And without further ado, let's begin episode 73, The Core Truth, and ask Peter to begin with telling us an interesting surfing story, because I think I just cut you off in the middle of your trip to Fiji.
Well, not exactly, but I always think it's weird when people use their middle name, and I always go by Peter Hannis Hernandez. And so I'm one of those weird people that use their middle name. And the reason I do that is because Bruno Mars gets all the attention. And so I had to differentiate myself from him. And I didn't realize that, but it actually helped me in my, in my internet presence and stuff by using my middle name, because it separated me a little bit. You want a surfing story though?
I do. Yeah. I want to start with surfing because it's part of your brand. It's who you are. And the hour is not just about real estate. I think it's what completes you and completes all of us. And I think surfing is a big part of that for you.
It is. And I one time when I was 11 and a half years old, I went down to La Jolla to surf in this surfing contest called the Menehune Surf Contest. And in Hawaiian, Menehune means little kids, or these little hobbits that are running around in the mountains of Hawaii. And so I went down there and I did pretty well. And then I got invited to be on a very, very world famous surf club called the Wind and Sea Surf Club, which was out of San Diego. And it had all of the legends of surfing on that team. And I'm a little 11 and a half year old Grom. And I'm so excited. And we're having our first team meeting, and it's at Mike Purpose's house in Hermosa Beach. And I'm there. And they're announcing that we're going to Hawaii to surf in the Makaha International Surf Contest. Now, I had no money, so I had no idea how I was going to get there. But they also offered an ability to get there where if you sold 300 surfboard clocks, you could go. And so I said, I'm in. So I grabbed my 300 surf clocks and off I went. And I started my first salesmanship ever. I'd never sold anything in my life. And I was determined to sell these clocks. And so I'm out there and I decided I was living in the marina with my dad at the time. And so I decided to go boat to boat rather than door to door and just try to meet with everybody that lived on their boats and try to sell them a surfboard clock. So I got to my fifth no, and I realized that these surfboard clocks were not selling. They were not popular. They weren't very great. And I'm sitting here and I'm going, how am I going to sell these clocks? And this is an interesting story because John and Roberto, everybody on this call, whenever you're selling anything, you need to be able to define and defend value. And you need to have an angle of why somebody should buy something. And I think that's where the creativity comes out in real estate salesmanship, and where you can actually affect a higher sales price than maybe the market will bear if you apply a little creativity, or you see value in something that somebody else doesn't see, or a way of creating value, something like that. So I knew I was not going to be able to sell the surfboard clocks on the quality of the wood or the Swiss clockmanship of these clocks. And so I decided to do what any smart 11 and a half year old would do. And I decided to go for the emotional appeal. So I completely changed my entire pitch. And I said, Pam Turner, I'm talking to you. I said, Pam, I'm 11 and a half years old. I've never, ever, ever been to Hawaii in my life. And I've got an opportunity to go to Hawaii. If I can sell 300 of these clocks, will you help me go to Hawaii? And they started selling like crazy. And next thing you know, all 300 were sold. And I'm in Hawaii. Now the story gets kind of even more interesting because now I'm in Hawaii and we pull up, to the contest and the waves are 15 feet. And I've never seen a wave that big in my entire life. And all of the guys that didn't get in the contest are saying, give me your jersey. You're just going to get killed out there. Don't go out, don't go out, don't go out. But instead I said, the stubborn little kid, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So I paddle out and I'm sitting in waves, like there was a channel where the waves weren't breaking. And I'm sitting way in the channel as far away from the waves as I could be. And I'm looking at these waves and I'm thinking, what am I doing out here? This is nuts. And I'm scared to death. And then all of a sudden, a set comes in that closes out the bay. And all of a sudden now I'm underwater. I'm held down for like 2-3 minutes. I finally come up. And there's this famous old lifeguard in Hawaii called Buffalo Keaulana. And he was sitting in the channel. And I go, Buffalo, Buffalo, I'm drowning. Help me, help me, help me. And I'm like really scared. And I'm thinking he's going to paddle over, put me on his big board and paddle me into safety. And instead what he does is he looks at me and he goes, what's the matter, boy? Swim in. And you know what? And I realized in that moment, and it was a life lesson for me, that we're got to be self-reliant. Don't look to other people for your leads. Don't look to other people for your success. You know what I mean? You got to swim in. And, and it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. And I got in and it was, it's one of those things. But yeah, that was my first. I got 5 points, I guess, for a good swim in. But I never got a wave.
So I'm learning 2 things about you.
I can't hear you.
Is, are we born salesmen? And if you at 11 were already putting this, things were going on in your brain about how to compensate for a difficult or a challenging product, that's interesting. And then also the self-reliant lesson at 11, learning to be self-reliant.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, I guess that's where I got, I guess was a good salesperson. That's where I discovered it.
Just so curious. You began selling and you just killed it from day one. I mean, talk to us about those early days as an agent.
I don't know about you guys, but I hate door knocking. Does anybody like door knocking?
No.
I mean, I know it works. We have an agent in Beverly Hills, Chad Smith. I mean, the guy he's just a classic and he's just the greatest guy. And, he's made a fortune selling real estate, lives in Bel Air, member of the Bel Air Country Club. And every day he goes out door knocking still to this day, from 4 to 5 every single day. He's like the mayor of his town and he just goes out and he door knocks around. Me, I went out you guys are going to laugh. I went out on my first door knocking adventure ever. And by the 4th house, they invited me in and I had a listing. Now, I was so scared and so nervous, I never door knocked again. It was like, I don't want to break my 100% success rate. So I wasn't good at that. But what I know is that, and what I think was really helpful to me is you have to talk to a lot of people every day. And so the secret, I think, for me, and the reason my sales career took off was I wasn't afraid to pick up the phone. And I would go into my database and into my sphere every day. And I just always was looking for that angle, what I could talk about. Maybe it was a good listing I saw that I would try to sell everybody I knew, or maybe it was something about the marketplace or low interest rates or whatever. And I would just get into my database and start talking to people and see where it would go. And that's kind of how I built my career in sales, was just talking to people about real estate all day long.
Peter, out of curiosity, Meredith asked the same question: is how much were those clocks? And was there any negotiation involved where someone, they didn't want to pay you $15, but you took 10?
Well, first of all, you got to go back to what year this was so that it all makes sense. Because when I tell you the price of the clocks, you're going to go, how did you go to Hawaii for that? Right. But imagine an airplane ticket to Hawaii is like $175, $200 or something crazy low. And then, they paid for all the food and board. I think the clocks, to answer your question, I don't remember what they were, but I'm going to guess somewhere between $25 and $30 a piece, something like that.
And where did you get all of them?
I guess they just made a deal with a clock company, and they just marked him up, and then if I made enough sales, then it would be enough to send me on the trip. I was 11 and a half years old. Do you think I was thinking about that stuff? I just wanted to get those clocks sold.
Of course you did.
I wasn't into the business machinations of what was going on.
So what was your first sales job after that?
Well, no, I was, my first sales job was actually real estate. I was a student at UCLA. I was pre-law. I was majoring in economics. My dad was really cool. He really helped me become, independent quickly, and said, hey, why don't you get your license and sell real estate and put yourself through school that way? And so I did. I went and got my license. I was 18 years old. And I would go in every single weekend and every afternoon after school, and I would sell real estate to put myself through school.
Wow.
Yeah.
A lot of younger agents on this call, or who will watch this trying to pick up tips, are going to say that we young agents have a credibility problem. It's very hard to get taken seriously as a 20-year-old, 25-year-old, even a 30-year-old or a 35-year-old, when so many of the people in the business are over 60 and are doing this as a second career. So how do we talk to those agents about getting past that credibility? Doesn't seem like it hindered you as an 11 and a half year old.
As an 18-year-old, it was challenging to be, respected in that way. But what's interesting is if you show people how hard you're willing to work, and you really have a really good work ethic, people are going to give you a chance. They will. I don't think the kids today know the first thing about work. I think they think they're going to show up, hold an open house, sell a $5 million house, go to the beach all summer, and come back and repeat that. And we know what we all know on this call is, if you're not working consistently and prospecting consistently, this business is not repeatable.
Just to add to that, I grew up in a hotel, as John knows, and worked since I was in 4th grade, washing dishes and making beds and so on. So the work ethic started early for me, and it really turned into incredible opportunities, especially when I did work in the bigger hotel industry, when the general managers were asking to interview me before they would hire anybody, because they wanted to hear about my life living in a hotel growing up. But they also knew the work ethic was there.
What gets celebrated, because we celebrate results. We celebrate just the end result and, all the victories, and that's what we see, and that's what we sell to our children. You want that, you go get that. But no one talks about the process of that. How do you instill that into some of these younger kids who are these younger brokers who need to understand the methodology, that what it takes to get there? How do you do that? How do they adopt that right from the beginning?
I think if we could share with people entering the business that every overnight success took 10 years, I think we would be helping them go a long way. And whether you're starting a sales career, starting a business, starting a company like I did with Teles Properties, being a top agent took me probably more than 10 years, to be honest. To be a top manager took me a lot of years. And Teles Properties took 10 years to really get going and be successful. So if you look back at I don't care whether it's Snapchat or Apple or any of these great companies that look like overnight successes, if you really dig into it, they were 10 years in the making. It's almost an axiom. And whether it's 5 years or 15 years or exactly 10 years, nothing's exact, but I bet it averages 10 years for every successful company or every successful agent. And one of the questions you asked me is like, what's the difference between being a president and being an agent? And there's no difference, because you as an agent are the owner of your business and you are the president of your business. And you have to think like a president. And you have to think like one in terms of business development. You have to think of one in terms of expenses and profit and loss statements. You have to think of one like your brand and how you want to market yourself. So everything about your business is your role as president of the business. So to me, this concept of young agents coming into the business, it looks like what you do is you get your license, you go into the office, somehow or another, the company is going to give you a lead. You're going to sell that lead and you're going to make a lot of money. That's what it kind of looks like on the outside. And then we all know we get here and we sit at our desk and we go, what do we do now? And that's day one. And
Peter,
then you build from that.
We've all seen Selling Sunset. You're sitting there in the office in Malibu. We know that that's how the business rolls in Malibu, right?
Right. Yeah, as soon as I'm off this call, I'm going surfing for the rest of the day.
We've all seen the TV show, and it's funny because the CEOs, the three CEOs of the three agencies talked about that in New York, and it was Serhant and Brown Harris Stevens and Elliman CEOs were all asked about what the effect of TV has been on our industry. And I think a lot of people are saying, yeah, but when you started Teles, things were different. It was a people business. Now it's a media business. It's a TV business. It's not the same business. So
you know how different it was, John? Like we were the first company in LA to use DocuSign. That's how far back that goes. And we would go to companies and I would argue with attorneys and I would argue with banks and I would argue with everybody. And I would say, are you crazy? Bill Clinton signed electronic signatures into law in the 80s. This is legal. And we used to have these conversations. We won our first multiple offer because of DocuSign. Well, all the other brokers were taking the documents and driving them to their clients for signature. Our client was getting on a plane. We DocuSigned it to him. He DocuSigned it back and it was done and we had the deal. But those kind of changes. The other thing that was really unique when we opened up as an Apple company, not a PC company. And I had just come from Coldwell Banker that was all PCs. And Teles is now doing all Apples. And it was like even trying to get the MLS boards to cooperate with Apple was like, it was the Stone Age back then.
So that brings up an
year was that? What year was that? Sorry, just for context.
That we opened in 87. Excuse me, 2007.
Okay.
So when I watched all your videos, it actually brings up an interesting segue. You make a very small reference to Who Moved My Cheese, the book, Who Moved My Cheese. And the story you just told is the story of an agent who adapts to new technologies and a changing landscape and a changing environment. And that's the subject of most weeks. We talk about how's the market, how's it changing, how do I get in front of it? And you just told the story about DocuSign and embracing a change in the industry. And so I think, can we talk to the people who don't know Who Moved My Cheese? Can we tell what that is and why you brought it up and why is it relevant here?
Well, I think Who Moved Your Cheese is a great book, by the way. And if you haven't read it, you should read it. It's a little short. I don't know. Was it 150 pages at the most? And
maybe
big type.
Maybe 50.
Yeah, big type and lots of, kids' diagrams. So you don't get lost. It's really easy to read and fun to read. And it talks about a mouse that keeps going back to the same place to find its cheese, but the cheese has been moved. And a lot of us, when things change around us, rather than recognize the change, embrace the change, adapt, adopt, pivot to the change, we just keep going back to the same place looking for our cheese, whining, why isn't it here? Why isn't it here? Why, you know what I mean? And rather than going, the cheese isn't here, where is it? You know what I mean? Let's go find it. And so I think that the book is really, really relevant to today's times because things are changing fast. Like I can tell you, I think it was 7 years ago, I was looking at my Instagram account. I had about 3,000 followers, and I'm looking at people during the meeting are on their phones. I'm at restaurants, everybody's on their phones. Families are having dinners and everybody's on their phones. And everybody's on their phones. And I realized like back then I'm going, you've got to be on social media, Peter, and a lot bigger than 3,000 people. If you want to be relevant and you want to be successful and you want to influence and you want to make sales and have business and recruit and do all the things you want to do, Peter, you've got to be on social media. And so I dug into it and I invested time, money, vulnerability, mainly looking like an idiot all the time, and doing all those things to build up my social media to a point where now I think I have 231,000 followers. I was ranked number 5 in California. I'm a 70-year-old propagiza, as this guy from English bloke called me. And so for you young people out there, this would be a way easier project, but you need to, that would be an example of pivoting and changing and staying relevant, not just, most people my age, John, you know what they say, I don't fool around with that internet stuff. I don't, you know what I mean? Like what pride is there in that, to take that stance in that position? It's sort of silly. You know what I mean? I'm too old to work out. All these things people say, it's nuts. We got to keep going.
John has killer social media. Hopefully you checked it out.
I know he does.
I don't know about that, because you're touching a nerve right now, because Roberto and I and Scott Hobbs talk about this all the time. None of the 3 of us are good looking enough. Well, Roberto is good looking enough, or dance well enough, or sing well enough. And so, or are funny. And these are the skills that social media seems to require. And that's what the media is telling us these days. And yet I'm not expert at dancing, singing, or telling jokes, or being telegenic. I feel like that I'm just throwing a lot of content up there because I like to talk. And Roberto likes to make market reports, and we like to talk about market reports. And so that's why we do it. It's not because we think it's making us more business, right, Roberto?
Yeah, but my question also with regards to the social media is that I see too many people just putting up nonsense just to be in front of someone's face, as opposed to doing something that's a little bit more relevant, or that teaches someone something. It doesn't have to be long, just quick, but it's something of relevance. And that's what I get confused by, because you have people that are, I don't know, they're blowing up a balloon or something. It's just some arbitrary thing that is meaningless. Why is that important? When in your process, the things that I've seen that you've done are 1 minute long. And I'm like, he packed all of that in 1 minute. Amazing. And it's calm, it's relaxed. Usually someone goes, in 1 minute, I'm going to tell you all these little things about everything in the marketplace. And you impart such wisdom in a moment's time. And it seems like it just seems like it was long. It was incredible. It's very good.
It's most impressive when you're driving and you do 2 things at once.
But I'm not doing 2 things at once. Somebody's filming me. I would never drive and film myself.
Okay.
But I almost didn't do videos, you guys, because I don't like self-propaganda in a lot of ways. As realtors, we have to do it because we're the product. It would be like if Nike didn't advertise their shoes, but in our case, we do advertise homes, but we also have to advertise ourselves, because the people that own those homes have to like us so that we can list the homes. So there is a importance, I think, in doing what you guys are doing on social media. You guys have a great brand. It's very authentic. It's very, very interesting. And I think that agents that think they're going to get on TikTok and do a little wiggle and get a listing, I think they're dreaming. Now, if you're Tracy Tudor, it's a different story. She can do whatever she wants because she's on $1 million listings. She's already successful. She's got a huge business. So if she wants to work out or dance or whatever she wants to do, she can do that. And it's going to work beautifully, as can the Altmans and other people like that. But I think a lot of new agents that think that, they're going to get on, TikTok and do the latest dance, and everyone's going to just go, oh, wow, John, that was so cute. I'm going to list with you. I'm with you. I don't think so, Roberto. Now, on the other hand, everybody here has life experiences, business experiences. You know, you have your thoughts on the way the business should be run. You have thoughts about the way you do things. You have thoughts about the market. You have thoughts about things. And that's why social media loves authenticity. And there's tons of people that have huge followings and very, very successful social media platforms that are old. But what they do is they embrace their age and their wisdom. They embrace the experience they bring. You know what I mean? They don't try to be something they're not. And I think that's really important for like people my age, for example. I'm 70 for crying out loud. I mean, I can't act like a 30-year-old. I want to be a 70-year-old. You know what I mean? I want to like, if I can, impart some things that I've been through or some experience I've had to people that haven't had that experience yet. So maybe they can have it or not have it, depending on if it was a good or bad experience. So to me, you know, find whatever your value is as a human being and then imparting some knowledge or help. I think that's a beautiful thing. We can all help each other.
Let's talk about the long view. In one of your clips, you said that all the money you ever made was because you understood the product, you believed in the product, you leveraged up and bought real estate, and real estate's been very good to you. Could you talk a little bit more about that? Because my own family's experience is the same way. My dad had a regular job as a middle manager at an ad agency. And if you asked him at the end of his life where he made his money, it was in real estate. And his father made his money, a math teacher, in real estate. So their advice to me was leverage up, borrow as much as you can, and buy the best piece of real estate you can. And it worked for me. I'm on my fifth house. So talk to us about the long view on real estate.
Well, I mean, my brother, you know, who's worth so much money, and he went in a different direction than I did, which was what he wanted to do. He went into he has a real estate brokerage that's like 2 or 3, 4 agents there. He's the broker owner. They do property management. They don't compete in the brokerage world per se. They represent a few clients. They buy and sell for themselves. They manage properties and stuff like that. And that's exactly what he did, is he just accumulated a ton of wealth buying real estate. I went the other way. I loved the whole thing about being a power broker. I loved the whole salesmanship of it, creating that business, being that kind of, you know, happening real estate salesperson. So I went that way into the brokerage side of the business because I was attracted to it. It was really fun and I loved it. I loved the competition. I loved the excitement of it, everything about it, making sales, the strategy and everything. But what I found out was that no matter how much money I made, you know, in commissions, my lifestyle rose with it. The cars got fancier, everything, you know, the dinners became more expensive, the clothes became nicer. And so, you know, even though I was making lots and lots of money, I wasn't, you know, just putting tons and tons of money away. So what I found out was that whenever I bought a piece of real estate, though, that money gets kind of locked in. And then, you know, 10 years later, you know, it's gone up a ton. And by owning real estate, you create wealth. By selling real estate, you create an amazing lifestyle. And that became my philosophy. So maybe didn't become as wealthy as my brother, but did well enough. And at the same time, you know, did what I love to do, my passion, which was, you know, the brokerage business.
But you had a better time.
Yeah, way better. How many calls that I went on, like he did exactly what John said, and he was leveraged to the hilt, and he's looking for a bank to finance this and that, and he can't find it, and the property values have gone down. I mean, that's stress. That's developers. Like people ask me all the time, like, is now a good time to buy? And I always answer, well, are you a flipper or a holder? If you're a flipper, you're at the mercy of markets. If you're a holder, you're always going to win.
Yeah. Can we go back to people in this business? Because a lot of people work on their own. I work on my own. John has a team. He built a team. For people that are younger, or, I mean, do you encourage them to join a team in order to learn the business? And then, you know, and then there's also brokers like myself. Like I'm by myself, but there are definitely brokers who run teams that are and they're doing more, they're doing more volume business than I am just because they're a team. And should I join that and not be because I saw one video that you said, you're like, do you want to be the CEO or do you want to be the next person down? And you kind of like being a little bit of the support system. Like you'd like rather be the coach and coach that star. Where do, and there are different personality types that fit into those categories. How would you guide someone in that?
Wow. I mean, teams are extremely complex, believe it or not. And the relationship between the team leader and the team members can be so varied from team to team, depending on the team and the leader and the people that are working for the team. And I think that, unfortunately, the way it starts off is the team leader is looking for people that can kind of catch the stuff that falls through the cracks, that they can give all their B, C, and D leads to, and that will bring business to them and help build their business, the team leader's business. The team member comes in thinking, I'm going to join Peter Hernandez's team. I'm going to learn from him. I'm going to get leads from him, and then I'm going to go out on my own and take the clients with me. So right off the bat, we don't have aligned objectives, do we? They're kind of like different. So I think the first step is team leaders and team members have to start communicating better and getting really, really honest with intentions and with goals. And why is the team leader really going to mentor new licensees? I mean, it's a huge job, and it's going to take the team leader away from being productive. So unless team leaders really want to mentor and help people and train people and coach people and develop talent, these team members are going to really be out there floating around in the wind. The other thought I have around all this is that team members, though, can leverage team leaders' names to help them get listings. No question about it.
Yeah.
And if that's all they get and the team leader doesn't do one more piece of work, it's worth the money because you would have never gotten the listing anyway. So don't complain if you end up doing all the work. You should do all the work. It's kind of like the person that enters the studios and they start in the mailroom to work themselves up. I think people have to kind of take that position too, to actually advance in this business, because if you're not coachable and you're not someone that people can mentor, it's very hard to grow in this business. I'm kind of running around a lot of different ideas. The other idea I always have is that this is a very much a lone wolf business. And you guys know what I mean. When you're sitting in an open house, it's 4 p.m, 2 people have walked in and they both told you your property was overpriced. That is not fun. That is not a Sunday afternoon watching football games with your friends or hanging out at a nice restaurant. You know what I mean? That is punitive. And so it's a business that we really have to learn. We really eat what we kill. And so lead generation and prospecting is a really, really important part of this business. And I think anybody that comes into this business thinking the team leaders are going to feed them deals is going to be in big trouble in no time.
So let's flip it, because what about if you're a team leader and you're building a team?
Yeah.
One of the things that you had said, get an operations person, get an admin, those two things. But then you're going to start to hire actual agents and brokers.
Right.
How do you go about if you hire someone young? I think it's natural. They're going to grow. They're going to be better. They're going to learn. And then eventually they are going to split off. And what is the approach about who you have to have some sort of mental time horizon? I'm going to have this person for 5 years. I'm going to have them for 2 years. I'm going to have what's the approach on actually building a team of agents and hoping that they'll stay with you?
Well, you can imagine in my position, when I hire an agent to Elliman or to Teles or Coldwell Banker, all the places where I've worked, and you work really, really hard with them and you develop them, and then they come to you on a Friday afternoon and say, "Got a minute?" And they walk in your office and they go, "Peter, I love you to death. This is purely a business decision." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's in that moment you have the ability to respond gracefully or not. And so the attitude I took was recently, and I didn't do it right away because I was so prepared to beat on them and tell them all the reasons they're making a huge mistake. Their career is going to go in the dump, blah, blah, blah. But when that didn't work and it didn't feel good when it was over, you know what I mean? I learned quickly that the best thing to do is to go, "Roberto, thank you so much for everything you did while you're here. You did a great job. I wish you the best luck in your future endeavor. And then you let them go and you just be happy that you were part of their life and part of their path. Now, all that being said, that really shouldn't happen. And so as a team leader, I think that it's important you're able to grow your team members and allow them to grow in not only money, but recognition within the team so that they won't want to leave. And I think that's where, you know, you have to have a really good model and you have to be somewhat generous with your team members, you know, or they will leave eventually.
Scott Hobbs has 160 people, I think, on his payroll. Is he right, Scott? Is that the secret?
It's well known in a lot of businesses that people come in and they go ahead and they say they're moving on, and bosses will go ahead and yell and say, get out and call security and take your desk now and you're dead to me. And that I've never found that as a good way. I mean, you've got to go ahead and know your people, and you got to understand life happens. And if you really sort of follow the Dale Carnegie of taking the sincere interest in your own folks and what's good for them, it comes across to your people, and it makes your life easier. And then hopefully you can become a mentor, and life's long. And people,
right.
I mean, sometimes someone who especially is young, it's better if they go out for 10 years and you go ahead and hook back up again 10 years later, because otherwise they never really understand what you're about.
That's right. I really think I worked for a company that used to be called the Sign of Respect. And it was such a great slogan, because it insinuated that there should be a mutual respect between the agent and the company. And I really love that. And just like there should be a mutual respect between the team leader and the team member, and that should really exist. And when that exists, everything takes care of itself: economics, longevity, everything. And so I think respect is a really, really, really huge word in this environment that's been lacking for a while, a lot. And I think it's actually coming back.
All right, I got another question for you. I was thinking about what we were going to talk about, and we always talk about how's the market. We talk a little bit about East Coast and West Coast on this show. But one of the things that strikes me about your background and the way you approach everything is with great discipline and planning. And that we don't talk about a lot on this show. So we haven't formed a perspective on that. I first encountered you at the beginning of this year, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, on a panel talking about the importance of planning if you're going to succeed in 2023. It's January 2023. I'm feeling a little guilty at this point in the year that I don't have my plan, perfected, and I'm already not implementing the things I know intuitively I need to do to succeed. I'm not exhibiting the discipline that I expect of myself. Can you talk to us about that? Because I watch you lifting weights, incredible weights over your head, and surfing at the age of 70, and making videos while you drive down the Pacific Coast Highway. And I'm like, how does he put together a plan that involves all this? So talk to us about what a great plan looks like, first of all.
Okay, well, so let me ask you a question.
Uh-oh.
What haven't you implemented that's weighing on you?
I'm probably waking up too late and going to bed too late, and I'm probably not. So if I just look at sleep, and we haven't even gotten to exercise, eating right, all the other aspects before you even get to work. I know that I'm not doing that. When I go hiking with Scott Hobbs, he asks me each week, and when we're hiking 5 miles with weight on our back, he's like, so you doing this every day? No. Well, what are you doing instead? And then I just kind of mumble, about what I'm not doing when I'm not carrying 30 pounds on my back.
So, that right off the bat, I would probably say to you, John, if you get up late and you're staying up later, we're working the same amount of time. We're just slightly different time zones. I go to bed earlier and get up earlier because that's what feels best for me. I don't get up at 5:30 in the morning because I struggle getting up. I'm up and ready to go. But yet 8 o'clock at night, it's like, I'm already done with TV. I'm like ready to hit the sack and like start fading out for the night. So I think it has a lot to do with your body rhythm and your lifestyle and what you really like to do. So it's really, I think for you, I would say you should shape your day and your work and your exercise and everything into that time zone that you're in. That's what I would do. Just like I do that. So for me, like when I get up at 5:30 in the morning, I know I have from 5:30, and I like to arrive at work or be working, completely dressed, fed, everything done by 8. That's it. I want to be going by 8. Not that I haven't done any work before then, because I have. I've gone through all my emails, I've scrolled social media, I've done a lot of stuff. But you know what I mean? Just I'm all buttoned up and ready to go. 8 o'clock. So from 5:30 to 8 is like my little personal time. And I'm super disciplined about what I do from the moment I get up until that time. And I do it because it feels good. I like doing it. It's what I want to do. And it's like my little special time. And then from 8 to 8 or whatever, I'm devoted and committed to being a service, to the company, the agents, to everybody here. So that's kind of how I overall view it. And to be of service and to not be burnt out and not get angry and short-tempered and all the things, because we all have issues to deal with at work. That 5:30 to 8 really sets up my day. It helps me get in the right mood.
That's a great tip.
So that's how I look at it. So let's just say, like maybe you work out in the evening. Like there's so many people that work out in the evening, or maybe you know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, I would have to live your life a few weeks to figure it out, but we could do it.
I think Meredith is ready. You're an evening person?
You're a muted person.
I just unmuted, sorry. Yeah, I go to Pilates a couple days a week, and I usually do it after work.
Mm-hmm.
But weekends too. So I'm not a morning person. I do my Wordle and I get to the office.
There you go. What's wrong with that?
Morning is the greatest time because there's typically everybody else is still asleep. I get up at 4:50 every morning. I go through my routine, and it's great.
Yeah, and I'm right behind you. I like it. What about you, Scott? What do you do?
Pretty much up by 6, workout, get stuff done at home, and then at the office by 8, and plow through the emails to start out, and then the phone starts ringing, and and you see whether or not you can follow your calendar or not.
Yeah. I mean, I know people that work out at 4 in the afternoon, and then they're done by 5 and showered by 5:36, and they're back at work at 6 for another couple hours. Nothing wrong with that either.
I think it just depends. On the east. Maybe because the sun comes up differently. Maybe at least when I was in California, it seemed to be a little bit different. It's dark right now in Connecticut at 7 a.m. It's dark, right, Scott? When you're
yeah,
it's completely black when you're heading to the gym. So
yeah. Well, I guess it's dark when I'm going there too right now. Sun is just starting to come up. I'm used to it.
But that's okay because you got your whole day ahead of you.
Yeah.
So what about the rest of the plan? There's a lot of anxious agents across the country who I was told that we've never had less inventory. And I know that last year we never had more licensed agents in America. So even aside from LA and New York City and Connecticut, I think this is a national phenomenon of anxiety. And it's coupled with the New York Times and Wall Street Journal daily reminding us that markets are crashing, markets are in decline, and that the Fed is going to continue to clamp down for the foreseeable future. So there's a lot of anxiety going on in late January 2023.
I saw the Real Deal article and it said this is the 6th consecutive month of prices going down. And then I looked at the article and I wanted to, be discerning about it, not just accept the prices are going down. And what they said is that the median price has gone down for 6 months, even though the year over year was up 1.9%. So let's help me with this. I got a lot of smart people on this, so help me with this because I'm actually going to put this into an article. And I want to make sure my thinking is right. So a medium would be a sampling of what is sold during a period of time, correct? It may include neighborhoods. It may not include neighborhoods, depending on whether things were for sale there or not, right? Am I right so far? If I'm not, just stop me. It may also be in a price point or not. Like maybe there's nothing for sale in the low end or the high end or the middle or whatever. And so whatever sampling of it is, there's no way to control that sampling either. So we don't know if like high-end listings are down or up and it's only the low end that's selling or whatever. But you can see how that would affect what the median price is. And that the only real way to tell whether prices are up or down would be to take a house that sold a year ago or something and have it sell this year. And then did it sell for the same, less, or more?
And then
that would be the only really accurate way of judging prices, right?
And you're only talking about one micro atom of the marketplace.
Correct.
That's the problem with all of the articles in the media is that I could literally sit, and when I do my newsletter, I try to be as informative as possible in the most general way I can be, because I look at stats I could manipulate it to say anything I wanted to say.
Right.
And if I'm trying to get someone to read my article, I could put the most sensational headlines up. And I think, and they are affecting the mindset of the public, because in general, as John was saying, there is a lack of inventory across the entire country. With that, and with such demand, the markets can only drop so much. There is no, especially here in Manhattan. Manhattan tends to be anomalous to most of the entire rest of the country, virtually all the time. Sometimes it reflects the rest of the country, but there is, people are talking about the price is crashing. It's just not plausible.
There's nothing to sell. How can something crash if there's nothing for sale? The whole thing is ridiculous. And I was looking at so I'm looking at this thing and I'm going, well, first of all, none of this is making sense. And they're saying on one hand, we're down, on the other hand, we're up. So, what am I supposed to believe? And then on top of that is, I don't know what part of the market actually sold last month that they're calling the median price for the whole market.
Yep.
So I don't know about what's going on in your neighborhoods, but these last 2 weeks in California have been a serious uptick in business. Where we were really getting nervous. Now we're having $40 million, $50 million days again of sales. All right. And we're starting to see like this one agent held an open house on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. On Friday afternoon, 70 people came through.
That's what
we're seeing. We're seeing buyers wanting to know what's going on in the market and wanting to know whether, what's for sale and what's going on. To answer your question about inventory and about this, one of the biggest mistakes I think coaches made over the years, and, I was listening to it, and when they were giving this advice, it didn't sound right, but I kind of went along with it, but it wasn't really what I've experienced in my career. And what they were teaching was, if the listing isn't priced to sell right away, don't take it. Do you remember that when they were teaching that? It would be better to be the second or third agent in. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And that if you can't price that thing right, walk away from it. Don't take the listing. Now, there's a lot of problems with that philosophy and style of business. And I'm going to start telling you what they are. Let's just start with the most basic. Would you rather have something to work on or not something to work on? Let's just start with there. Would you rather have a listing or not have a listing?
Yes.
Anybody not want a listing? No, everybody wants a listing. Second thing, if Scott lists the listing, can I reduce his listing and sell it, or is he the one that's going to be able to reduce it and sell it? You can't reduce another person's listing. There's rule number 2. 3, listings beget more listings, and listings beget interested parties looking at listings. So you're going to meet more buyers and sellers by having a listing than not. There's an agent in my Malibu office that has a listing that's way overpriced. She just got a lead on a listing from that listing. And she's going to get another listing based on that will sell. And the best example I can use, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of an agent named Chris Cortazzo. He's a big agent here in Malibu. He currently has, I think, 65 or 70 listings. in a marketplace that's really tiny. And he dominates the market. I would say he probably has 6 times as many listings as the next broker in town. And he dominates the market, and he's dominated it for 15 years, maybe longer, 20 years. And nobody can break into it because he has 65 listings and he just looks like the dominant agent. And so everybody keeps listing with him. Does that make sense? You guys following me? Now, here's the truth about his listings. 40 of them are never going to sell. But the 20 that do sell, he's going to make $20 million a year because this is ultra high-end stuff. So, and maybe part of those 40s that don't sell, he'll be able to reduce and sell later. So it's not a total loss. So to me, he's figured out the secret. Go out there and get as many listings as you can, own and dominate a market, reduce what you can, list right what you can, but have that massive market share.
That sounds like the business plan for 2023 right there. I think
that is the plan. I would go out to your community and say, let's try. Don't go out and tell them the market's bad. No one's going to want to list with an agent that tells us the market's bad. Go out there and say, hey, Meredith, you want 1.3? Let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. I'll be right over. Let's sign it up. And do that 10 times. And let's get some properties on the shelves.
I'm also hearing from you that we can't paint the market with one brush. You can't say New York is good, LA is bad, Connecticut is good. That's just it's nuanced. We have to talk about different neighborhoods. We have to talk about different market segments, economic segments, geographic segments, psychographic segments. And what I mean by that 100%. Is psychographic means you have some people who just want new, and do we have any new inventory in this market, or do we only have resale inventory, fixer-uppers? And that can affect a market tremendously. And there's certain towns. I mean, Pittsburgh was famous for being run down until the developers went in the 80s and 90s and rebuilt Pittsburgh, and it's apparently all shiny and tall, and so that happens to a community every 20, 30 years. So even, and we spend a lot of time talking about geographic segmentation. We spend a lot of time now talking about high-end, middle, and low-end segmentation, but we never really talk about psychographic segmentation. And so that's why I'm bringing it up now. But I think I have to. So
what is your definition of psychographic?
I came out of a business, a marketing consultancy that talked about consumer behavior at retail. And when we talked to rollerblades, we said that some people are price sensitive. Some people are buying it because it's convenient and it's here and the geography is right. But some people are psychographic. They want very specific criteria that have to be met. And in my market, that means mid-century modern. There's only 90 of the 7,000 inventory in this town. Only 90 of them might be, or 100 of them might be mid-century modern. So psychographic demand, criteria affecting
or they'll want a certain architect
supply.
Or something. Yeah, I hear you.
Waterfront is another. If I come out there and say I only want Hollywood Hills, and I only want over 5,000 foot, then you're going to say, oh, that's he's got a geographic and a psychographic need.
Well, what's smart about that, John, is you've kind of found an angle and you found a niche, and you can actually target that niche really, really accurately. Like, for example, let me think of an example. Like in certain areas in marketplaces, lots will be a general size, but then mixed within that, there could be lots that are twice as big in certain areas of that marketplace. And so an agent, if they were really creative, would say, I specialize in the larger lots. And that would become a niche for them. And that would go to your psycho, the people that want a lot of land around their house.
Right.
So looking for those little nuances of areas and types of properties, makes you really an effective realtor, because like-minded people attract to each other. And so, let's just say you're an architectural specialist and you only represent in properties that are by, well-renowned architects. that have 1 degrees for their architecture, things like that. Now, all of a sudden, you're gonna attract those types of properties that have great architecture. And some people have no idea what you're even talking about. They'll say, well, every house has an architect. You know what I mean? And they can be that far off the mark when it comes to that conversation where another person's going to tell you why this architect is famous, what house they're famous for, the design nuances and all that stuff. And there's a whole bunch of buyers in the marketplace that are focused maybe even on a architect. Like maybe somebody just wants a Ehrlich, or somebody just wants, you know, a certain a pre-doc or something, some famous architect's design. And so that's another niche. But I think it's really cool when you become a specialist like that in something, because it'll really separate you and help you develop your personal brand.
For example, I'll pick on Roberto. If I don't know anything about Roberto except what I can see, I'm looking at those arched windows and I'm wondering, is Roberto an East Side, West Side, or Soho specialist? And I think Roberto is probably, based on where he's sitting, is what he's communicating to me, that he's probably an expert in, you know, cool apartments. You know, not new product, right? New high skyscrapers, but he's probably, you know, got a line in on that kind of thing. It came up this morning on Richard Ferrari's call that one of the agents always shows waterfront behind her. And it's now she's associated with, as you say, waterfront listings, just like that guy who's associated with high-end listings, because that's what he wants to use with great consistency.
Yeah, look at what Dina Golden-Taylor. I mean, every time I think of her, I think of a boat dock. You know, she's down in Miami there. That's her property type. She has these huge homes with boat docks. That's what you think of. No, it's true. 100%.
Roberto, are you the king of cool?
Always.
It's all you sell.
No, I sell it all. Can we just switch gears?
And you've got the Connecticut bookshelves in the back.
Exactly.
Yeah, I have to look Connecticut.
That's right.
We brought Peter on, and based on the concept of the core truth. And I just want to get I want to get some essence of what you really mean by that as an ethos, or what. Can you just talk to us about that? Because that was the headline of our promo. And I just want, and we really haven't we've heard some different things, but I want to hear begin, you know, just your through line to that.
Well, it might be a little arrogant, but what it really stems from is when I listen to people that have never sold a house tell agents how to sell houses, or that have never built a business and sold a business, tell you how to build and do a business, or give all the advice that's been given daily on social media. I'm thinking to myself, so much of the time, this person doesn't even know how to brush their teeth. How can they tell us how to sell a house? You know what I mean? And so some of the things I hear, like, you know, don't take the listing. I thought to myself, that's like horrible advice. So how can I cut through that? And so what I came up with was not the core truth. It was really keep it core. And nobody liked it. But that was my original slogan. Was I wanted to call my thing Keep It Core. And it's kind of a surfer lingo kind of thing. And nobody liked it. In fact, I think even Scott made fun of me once about it. Keep it core, something like that. And so the people that helped me with my social media and stuff renamed it the core truth. That's how it happened.
And your intention is, look, I've done a lot, I know a lot, and let me put my arm around your shoulder and just tell you the truth. That's the idea.
Pretty much. I'm really focused on like giving back right now. You know, in a nutshell, I've been a top agent, a top manager. You know, the first manager ever promoted from manager to president at Coldwell Banker. You know, I founded Teles Properties with some friends. You know, we sold it to Elliman. I'm president of Elliman. So I've got this, like, I think, tremendous, vast experience of just about every perspective of real estate. And I've experienced so many things and so many heartbreaks and so many wins and so many just things where I wanted to, you know, commit Harry Carey. And then to be able to share some of that back with people that are just starting in the industry, or maybe at just certain points in their careers where they want to, grow their businesses or whatever. Just the idea that maybe I could impart some experience that I've had that might help somebody. I mean, that's the pure motive. I mean, nobody's sending me $5 a month for, me doing these videos that I spend my own money on, and nobody's, I don't get a lot of, you don't get anything from it really, but I think it's fulfilling for me. And I think it also, on a selfish kind of thing, keeps me relevant and in the news and in real estate. And so I think it's good marketing for me from that point of view, from a very self-promoting kind of selfish point of view. But the intent is, like you said, I think is maybe to put my arm around somebody and say, hey, you can go try this other stuff, but this is what's really going to work. It may not be funny. It may not be fun, but it's the truth. And I always like to say the money is in the mundane. It's not in the money's not in the Statue of Liberty play or the free throw from the mid-court thing. It's that nice clean layup every single time. And if we can keep our businesses focused on that, like these downturns, these financial uncertainties that we are feeling right now, if we just stay super focused on our basics and our activities and not the results, we're going to come out the other side further ahead.
I must say, just from a standpoint of approach, when you're driving the car and you're talking, it's really, it's engaging. It's like as if you're just sitting in the car with you, and you can imagine how intimate those conversations are when you're somebody. It's really effective. It's great.
Well, I can't do those anymore because the guy that used to film me said there's no insurance company that'll allow you to do that. So those are done. Isn't that a bummer?
You're in LA. You could just say it's the backdrop. It's just.
I know. I could just maybe I'll get a movie behind me like it's moving. That's funny.
Well, I learned so much today. I think in the wrap up, I guess we can all say what we learned, but I learned that I can't, and I've heard this before, I can't paint the market with one brush but what I learned from you is I can't write one business plan that's going to work for each of us. Each one of us is going to succeed in a different segment of the market, getting up at a different time of the day, exercising differently, and prospecting differently. As you said, you're not a door knocker, but you gave the example of somebody who is. And so what I guess I'm learning is that I don't have to feel bad that I'm not approaching this exactly the way you approached it or Roberto approached it. I know Roberto had a little bit of that in his question. Is it best to be a team? Is it best to be an individual? And what I heard again was there's different strokes for different folks. That's what I heard in this hour. And it was great. Roberto?
What I learned really is, obviously you have tremendous breadth of knowledge from your years of experience, and it's stunning that you're 70 years old first. But that it's all have a plan, don't stress about it, but be mundane and execute every day, have a routine that works and is comfortable for you. And you will accomplish a tremendous amount, but just don't stress about it. Make it happen, believe in it, and go about your business.
You have to. In sales, at the end of the day, you've got to believe that the miracle's coming. If you don't have that belief, you are pretty much cooked. Because you guys know as well as I do that sales comes in clumps. Wouldn't it be nice if we could say, I'm going to do 3 sales every month, and they would arrive on the 5th, 15th, and 20th? Wouldn't that be fun? Instead, what happens? We could go 6 months and have 5 sales in 1 month, or we could go 1 month, none, 3. You know what I mean? It's just all over the map. So if you don't have the basic core belief that it's going to happen, you're pretty sunk. So you just have to really, really believe it's going to happen, and it will. If you put in the work, it won't happen if you're not putting in the work, though.
I love that. That's a great ending. You got to believe.
You really
That's what unites us all on this call.
It was so funny. I don't know if you guys were on the morning role play calls ever at Douglas Elliman. I don't even know if these are Douglas Elliman people, but we do a role play call every morning. And this gal was on named Liz Benechu. And she was on and she says, you know what? She goes, I got this for sale by owner. that, you know, I want to call, but I don't know what to say to the person. And so we role played it. And then we said, call them now while you're on the Zoom. And so she was willing to do it. Can you believe it, Pam? She actually was willing to do it. And so she calls this seller. And what do we anticipate? Not another realtor. No. Why are you guys all bothering me? Do you have a buyer? If you have a buyer, bring a buyer, right? That's what we're anticipating, right? You know what the person said? Hi, how are you? Oh, so nice to meet you. How can I help you? He says, well, you know, I'm probably going to go on the market in February. I'm just trying it by myself now for a couple of months. He says, I'm a broker and a mortgage person, but I'm going to list it. And, you know, I'm probably going to, you know, list it with another agent. I might co-list it. I might take a referral fee, but I'm definitely going to put it on the market. And guess what? She has an appointment. It was that. And you see, she maybe 5 calls before that were those ugly calls. But if you believe, you're going to get to that call. And she actually hit it on the first one, which was amazing. And we were all listening to it. I think we're all thinking, why can't I be on that call? That should be my call.
That's great. You got to believe. You got to believe in this business.
Yeah,
and it's tough with the bad news, you know, that we're all getting on our iPhone all day long. But, you know, I'm not going to let it get me down. I know my market and I know what I'm capable of. And I know what you know, I know it's coming.
Absolutely. More than that.
So
this is about the I don't know, the 8th or 9th down market I've been in. And they're blinks in the scheme of things. So thanks a lot, you guys. I promise.
Peter, thank you so much. Really appreciate you.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Roberto. See you next week.
See you,
I think
boss.
we have Norway next week.
Bye, John.
Bye.
See you, Skipper.